Hello, it's Victoria from Coastal Themes, and I am back with another tutorial. And in this video, I'm going to be talking you through Webflow in under 25 minutes. So this is perfect if you are just getting started with Webflow, you don't know that much, and you just want an intro, a light intro into how it works, where things are, and kind of how to build a really simple site and kind of what components you'll be using most moving forward. So we can go into loads and loads of detail, but we're going to spare you from that, and we can cover that in a later video if you would like that. Starting with the dashboard, this is where you will come in. It looks the same for most users on Webflow. I mean, I'm a freelancer, so I can access other people's workspaces, but for the most part, this is the same. So here you can see where your billing is, your plans, your teams, any general settings, so that will just cover like your sites and stuff like that. But this is where your sites will sit. When you want to create a new site, you simply hit New Site. There are a few cool things going on in Webflow at the moment, including the AI site builder. Those are the three ways you can start. So we're actually going to start with a blank site, but feel free to try all these other methods as well. You can name your site. I will leave this because I think this is really funny actually. Then we'll hit Create Site. So now you'll be taken into the editor, the designer, and this is where you start building out your site. And it's quite intimidating. It's not the most basic kind of interface to look at to start with. We've done a Framer versus Webflow video where you can compare the differences between the two. And Framer obviously is a lot friendlier to look at. So we're going to talk you through the different buttons, the different things on Webflow. I'm actually going to start with something that not many people point out, is that if you jump over to settings and you click on interface, you can change it to be a bit brighter or a bit darker and kind of just adjust it to suit you. There is a really quick link here to video tutorials, so if you click that, that will bring up all the tutorials on how to use Webflow. And this is something I only kind of realized not that long ago. So essentially what I'm going to do is try and condense all these things for you. And maybe not as much, but I'll try and get through a lot of these things in the next 20 minutes. In addition to that, if you are learning, we have a learning assistant, and that is AI. You can kind of ask it how to do certain things and it will guide you around. So this is also really helpful for things on the fly when you just need a bit of support. So starting at the top here, we have two different editors. We have design and we have build. So I usually stay in design because this is how you start designing your page out. And then this is the CMS, and this allows you to kind of create your blogs and create collections of content which you can edit from fields like this rather than having to go into a design on a page and make loads of different pages. You just create a template and then that will fit all this content for you. And then finally we have preview, and that will give you a preview. It does have a header and a footer, so it's a little bit different to publishing because you can publish to a staging site. So if I hit publish, then I can open this in a new tab and see my site. When it's on staging, it says made in Webflow. And then obviously I can add custom domains, which I will show you shortly. There's a few advanced options, but we don't need to look at these now. And then we have share, and that allows people to invite them to the file. Obviously, depending on what plan you're on, you can invite them as a reviewer, so that is free for them to just view and comment. Limited seat, which gives them certain access, like to edit the CMS and like blogs, for example. And then we have a full seat. Admin obviously is just like you, site manager, designer, and yeah, you can add whoever you want and pay as you need. And then in the middle here, we have this globe, which refers to the locales, and that is for making different versions for different countries. And then we have this, which is a quick way to jump between pages. You can also jump between pages by clicking P or clicking the pages icon on the left here, and that shows you all the pages, including CMS pages and e-commerce pages and any user pages if you have like a membership site. And then we have settings, which will control the settings for this specific page. So that allows you to update your SEO settings if you want to restrict access. So like it's a passworded page, for example, and any other specific page settings. But here's all those SEO things, the title, the description, and so on. And then if you have any custom code for the page, you can add this here. and that is where it lives. And then finally we have this little icon. This allows you to change your breakpoint for the page you're designing. So by default, Webflow gives you desktop, and that applies everything across tablet, mobile, landscape, and normal mobile. Tablet, mobile, landscape, so when you're holding your phone, landscape orientation, and mobile portrait. So let's put it back to desktop. We're just going to be mostly looking at desktop today. I'll lightly touch on mobile and how to adjust things responsively. And then we have this plus icon here, and this is where we can start building the structure of our page. So if you are not familiar with the box model, the box structure yet, it's basically saying that everything on your page and how elements and components are constructed on a website is by blocks. And it can get confusing because you get blocks inside blocks inside blocks, and they all have different names. We have got a video of this. I will link it here. It's basically saying that you have a main page wrapper, which is called your body, and that is where everything inside your web page lives, from your header to your footer and all the content in between. And then within your header, so we'll actually call this the hero section, just to keep it simple. You have a container in the hero section. Oh, I didn't add. And that container is actually your hero text. And then within that, we have a text block, and that sits in your hero section in the hero text box. So you can see how it can get quite overwhelming and complex if you overthink it. So you do need to just understand how that block structure works. And then we can also add things like buttons. And you can see here we're starting to kind of build up these layers for our page. So that brings me onto the layers panel, the navigator, and this allows you to view an accordion style stacking visual of the layers on your page. So it can get quite complex, but you can always drag this out or scroll across. And then we have components, and this is going to be your best friend when you start building more robust websites, because a lot of developers, for example, will build out components before they even start building out pages. So when you have a set of designs on Figma, for example, so I've got this site design of a charity website, it's a conservation website. And you can see here I have a header design, I have a footer design, I have some of these repeating kind of carousels of text, I have that there, and I have it up the page. So you can start to see things that repeat, you might want to create a component for. And to create a component, you simply click Create Component, and you can call this one Header, for example. You can put it into a group, you can add a description. That's when it gets a bit complex. You might want to have 3 different types of headers. So the group would be called Header, and the name would be Header Global or Header for landing pages. And then you can start to edit that. So at the moment it's saying that my button is inside my header. I think I had that component selected, but you can see that it's kind of isolating this component, and it's considering that my header. I'm actually going to delete this because it is not useful to me right now. I'm going to select this section rather and create a component. So now you can see I've made this into a component. It's isolating this view. If I want to go back to my homepage where I was editing before, I can just click back, and it will show you when it's highlighted in green and it's got a green tab saying section or whatever the name of the component is, you know it's a component and it's reusable. You just have to be careful that you remember these are repeating on multiple pages. So if you have a footer, if you change one thing, it's going to change across all the pages. That's really helpful in some ways, but can be really detrimental if you forget, or you start editing something, you get quite far down the line, and then you lose your progress or something like that. Okay, moving down, we have variables. So variables, if you're used to Figma, for example, variables are like your color styles and your text styles and things that repeat in the styling department. So we can add a new color variable. I can add a new variable and call it select color. You can add as many variables as you want. and you can start building up this kind of visual language, which allows you to reuse these styles whenever you need. If I add in a section, or add in a block actually, if I add in a block, that add? No. If I add in a block, there we go. And I come over to style, which I will show you the styling panel in depth now. I can click the purple plus, and that will allow me to select a color variable. And that means if I ever want to change, it's the same as components, if I ever want to change my color variables, that blue, maybe I want it to be like a darker purpley blue, that will now change wherever this color variable has been applied across the whole website. The next section is style selectors. So style selectors, if you're familiar with code, style selectors are like your classes. So you can see here I have 2 style selectors, and I can delete them, or I can change the name. So look, classes and tags, these will show up here, and you can rename, delete, and search them. So if I start creating a page, so I will add a div block. Hero is always 100% width of the element it's inside, and so it has given me the style selector, which is my class. So it's the equivalent of adding a class selector to a div tag when you're coding. You can also adjust what it's like when it's hover, when it's pressed, when it's focused. Those are especially obviously great for buttons, but we're just working with the default state now. So if I jump back into style selectors, I've got this hero here, and it will show me where this class selector is applied. So I've got it on the home page, so it's showing me it's affected on this page. I'm actually on about, sorry. I'm on the about page, and it will show me if it's on any other pages and what other components it's affecting. Because if I will go to my home page now, if I add a new section and I add the class hero, it will apply the same settings to this section. So that is really important to keep in mind, because if I say that I want this to be background color black, I go back to my about page, I can see that because those 2 elements have the same style selector, the class is hero, they both have width 100%, height 300 pixels, and a background color of black. So it can get really confusing when you come into Webflow and you don't know what style selectors are, you don't know what these things are, but you know that you're changing things on one page and then you go look on another page and everything's changed. So it's important to wrap your head around the different style selectors on a page, on a site, when you come into it from the get-go. So this tab is Assets, accessible by hitting J, and this is where images live, videos live, files live, and you can upload things like so. The final thing we have here is apps, and this allows you to use third-party apps like Stripe, like Figma or Webflow, like Lottie files. There's loads of things and fun things that can make your whole Webflow experience really, really cool, really exciting, and very flexible. Zapier is a great one. So you can check these out in your own time and use as you need. So one thing I am not going over right now is e-commerce, because e-commerce is a whole different ballgame. But if you do have e-commerce installed and you would like a tutorial on that, please let me know. So let's talk about the style panel. So we have style, we have settings, and we have interactions. So now that we have this hero section selected, let's just keep working in here. So starting with layout, we have display settings. So again, if you're familiar with code, you will know you have block. Things take up the full width. We have flex, which allows you to control the direction or create kind of like a grid or wrapping, a wrapping style. So if things fill one line, they will wrap to the next line. Then we have grids. So you can have a 2x3, 4x4. You can increase these numbers as you wish. And you can also have none. And that will just make it non-existent. It won't display. Display equals none. You can control all the details here, alignment, and so on. We'll leave it as block, just because that is very basic, very straightforward. Spacing, we can control things like margins. So margins sit outside the element, padding sits inside the element. So if I have another block inside, and I fill it with color. You can see, because I have padding applied to the top, it's 40 pixels away from the top, and this whole section is 20 pixels away from the components that it's in, because it's got a margin and it's got padding. And then obviously you can add that left, right, top, or bottom. Size is like we've looked at before: width, height, minimum width, minimum height, maximum height, and then what it happens when you overflow. If you're unsure on things, you can just hover and you will see a description. So overflow hidden, overflow clip, which is cropping the items inside, overflow scroll, and overflow auto, and that basically does scroll as well. Positioning, so static is no kind of positioning applied. Relative is how it's relative to other items, and you can choose what it is relative to. Absolute allows you to position it anywhere that you'd like, so 40 pixels from the top, or bottom right, bottom left, top left, right, bottom, fill the whole thing. We have fixed, which means whether you're scrolling, depending on where you're fixing it to. So this is great for headers. If you fix to the top and you keep scrolling, the user will be able to see the header. You'll be able to see the header at any point on the page because it's fixed to the top. And then we have sticky, similar like fixed, but it's more kind of, it stays stuck to a certain position. And then we move into typography, and that is kind of the typography styling you would find in Figma, find on most web editors, even kind of word editors. You should be familiar with font. Weight, that's kind of bold or normal. The size of the text, you can change the measuring, the unit. So we got pixels, percentage, EMs, REMs, and viewport width, viewport height. There's loads of things going on. Same with height, so that is the line height. Color, alignment of the text, if you want underlines, and we've got more things going on here. And then we will jump into backgrounds. Backgrounds, you've got the ability to add color, like I showed you. You can add color variables, or you can just add a normal color. You can also add images, and you can choose here, you can choose an image from your assets panel. You can create gradients, circular gradients, and then obviously solid colors. And then we have borders. You can apply border radius, you can see here. You can also input your own. You can control individual corners. You can see how that one changed. You can control the width of the border. So now I've got a pink border, and I can also toggle whether I want, which border I want to toggle, which border I want to adjust. So I'm adjusting the right border right now, and it's just made this one blue, and the bottom one and the top and the left are all pink. You can also put dashes. You can control this kind of style. And then we have kind of effects, and this is how creative you want to be. We have blending effects, so that will apply to the whole container you're styling. We have opacity. We have outlines, box shadows, 3D, 2D, transitions, filters, and you can kind of go to tab on this section. Then we have settings. So ID allows you to, really great for like linking direct to a section. So if this is my FAQ, and then in my header I have an FAQ item, it will link me straight to this section. Because I now have this ID, I can use it to tag it specifically. And then I can change the tag of the section. So div is just a normal kind of container, but if you want to specifically tag something as a section, as main, or as a nav, or whatever, you can change the tag here. This is really great for SEO and accessibility. We have visibility, hidden or visible, and then custom attributes, search index settings, and editing permissions all sit here. Finally, interactions. This is where kind of hover things come into play, moving carousels, and anything kind of movement sits under interactions, and it allows you to make sure that if I click one thing, another thing will change, or if I hover one thing, something will animate, or you can control things here depending on many different variables. So mouse click, mouse hover, mouse over element, scroll into view. So like if you have elements scrolling into view, you might want them to go from 20% opacity to 100% opacity. And then obviously everything you can toggle responsibly. So you can see here, because of the way I've styled this, it's 100% width. It's going to be 100% width no matter what kind of breakpoint I'm on. So if I make this 50% width, I mean, it might look cool on desktop because it's big, but on tablet, especially on mobile, it's quite small. So you can start toggling through these breakpoints to figure out what things look like as you style them. Publishing all happens right here, like I told you. We will do another tutorial on adding a custom domain, but you pretty much get to add it. It links you back to your site settings. It'll prompt you to pick a plan because you need to have a paid plan to add a custom domain. There's also a few other things which you need to pay for in order to access. So on your staging site, you can have CMS collections, but when you're on a basic plan, there's no CMS collections included. So it's important to kind of look into this when you're deciding which plan to choose. So that is everything you need to know about Webflow in a nutshell. Hopefully I've kept this under 25 minutes, you will find out. And if you have any questions or you want to know more about Webflow or there's anything specific you want me to make a tutorial on, please let me know and I will make one for you soon. See you soon. Bye.